Hi everyone, this is Esateys.
And this is Rafael, and welcome back to Relationships Done Different. Today's show, you guys are going to find really, really helpful because it applies to every aspect of all of our relationships. And the title for today is What to Do When Your Relationship with Anyone Gets Tough. Yeah. Okay. Or another way to say that is, what do you do when you have... when your relationship, you get really triggered in your relationship?
And this could be any relationship. What comes to mind is that as we do these podcasts, most people think that it's just about a significant relationship or someone that you're personally in relationship with on a perhaps romantic level. This is so much more than that. And I hope that you realize that. And I hope that you're telling your friends, because relationship, as we've said, probably a few times, is not just with another person. It is with your body, the environment, your workers, your boss, your children, your food, your money, all those other kind of things. So,
well, that's really true. And even if you're not in a relationship, this is really important because somewhere in your life you are in a relationship.
Everywhere in your life you are.
Okay, so we got that handled. So what's going on with you? What's happening this week?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about someone who has come to our meetup for a long time. And I hope he's okay with me mentioning his name because he's extremely awesome. And his name is Jason. And Jason is a young kind of guy. And a young meaning in his 20s. And he is so accomplished and so powerful and so connected and so alive with life. Very, very committed to being aware, waking up, and living his life differently than most people that are way older than him. So he's a gift to the planet, and he has recently moved to
another state.
To Texas. and so our group was speaking last week. We actually do a monthly podcast, a monthly potluck here at our home for our meetup people and people that are local, which you're invited to, by the way, if you're local. You're also invited if you're not local. You can just fly in for the afternoon. At any rate, he came up as a subject when we did our potluck last weekend, and there was just, he has made such a significant impact on our group that so much love was brought up about him, and that felt really, really awesome. And then when we were at meetup, it was brought up again. And so the point of this is, you make a difference. It's very important that as you are sitting there or you're driving or whatever it is that you're doing right now, do not ever underestimate the power and the degree of impact you are making in other people's lives, how you are supporting them in shifting into a great deal of gratitude and self-empowerment and everything along those lines. It's done without you even knowing it. Jason didn't even realize what an amazing impact he made on this group, and still is. So we communicate back and forth, and he's going to create his magnificence so it is felt where he is now living, and hopefully he'll come back and we'll get to be with him again in a personal or in a physical level. But for now, we're sending the connection across the airways. This is what I feel is very important for you to realize, is that when you are very true to yourself, when you're very authentic, when you are very committed and you do whatever it is that it takes to follow through with your own personal self-development, that can't help but overflow into other people's lives. I'll say it again. Who you are makes a difference.
And that's so, so powerful. Jason is just a regular person who just does his thing and just impacts so many people. So it's so powerful to know that you have the essence of you is more than enough. It just, you reach out to people in ways you don't know. So I'm with you.
Yeah, it's very, very awesome. So, what are we talking about today? Did you say?
Okay, today, what to do when your relationship with anyone gets tough.
Well, this is something that everybody touches at one point in their life or another. Some people I talk to say they live in this place.
Or multiple times, I was going to say.
Yeah. So when you are in a relationship, any relationship, and I'm going to reiterate that this could be with someone you work with or whatever. I actually get a lot of people coaching that are having difficulty with people that they work with, people that they interact with. It's either family or work. And yes, of course, it's on the romantic one-to-one side as well. But it's pretty amazing to me how much difficulty, quote unquote, there is out there in the world with other people that we don't necessarily live with, but we interact with on a continuous basis. So we know that pretty much everybody goes through this many times, perhaps in their day or in their week or certainly in their life. And some people that I've coached, they just are in that like all the time. Therefore, it's important to recognize that this may not be just with a partner that you're living with, but rather people that you work with, which is really very common for me to work with people that have that issue, and also with people that have difficulty with their family. Those are two very, very common or important pieces. So here's the number one thing to remember. Every relationship, you've heard it here once before, is about your own self-development. It is your invitation to decide whom it is that you choose to be in any given moment. It is to show you where you have resistance, judgment, and issues, if you will, about things that perhaps you think you're really right about or that you don't want to look at, so you have internally suppressed them, and what happens is another person comes into your life to show you that they're there. This is a very important thing to hear. If you have any trigger about anything, you have something going on inside of you. Triggers are always resistances, and resistances are showing you that there is something that you have a judgment about that you don't approve of, if you will. Now, I just want to put in a little caveat here. Judgments can also be, quote unquote, good things, if you will, things that you like. So judgment happens in one direction or another. But I'm primarily focusing right this moment on things that upset you, that you have resistance to, that you would like to be different, and you think, and sometimes are absolutely positive, that they should be different. You look at our politics today, you look at pretty much anywhere in life today, and you will see that there is a hardcore belief system about the way things, quote unquote, should be, and people stand up, fight, riot, and die for a belief system, for a thought process. And they frame it as a way of being a hero, if you will, because the need to be right is so huge in human consciousness that people spend most of their time doing everything and anything they can to be right and then to prove it. So if you pay attention to your triggers, the question that you can ask yourself first off is, what am I holding on to? What is it that I am committed to being right about? And when you ask that question, if you take a moment and look a little deeper, you will see that you are committed to being right because there is a fear, an underlying fear, that if you are wrong, it's going to cost you something. It's going to cause you some kind of perceived, quote unquote, pain and or suffering. If you follow that even deeper, what you will find is that will take you to literally dying to death. I know that seems a little extreme to some of you, But if we ever work together, I'll show you exactly how that process works, but it'll take you there every time. Bottom line is that when somebody triggers you, stop. Literally stop. Do not speak. Do not do anything except breathe. And when you stop and you breathe in through your nose, holding it and exhaling through your mouth, and allow your body to interrupt the knee-jerk reaction, then things can be assembled internally a little bit differently if you allow for that. So that means that you've now stopped, you're now breathing, and now you can ask yourself the question, what am I trying to prove? What am I defending? What belief system do I have right here, right now, that I'm defending? In other words, why do I have to be right? Just the interruption of that pattern will help you grow tremendously. Now, I know it's a lot trickier when you're at work and you have a coworker or maybe even a boss that is a certain way. Well, has it dawned on you that maybe you're mirroring to them things that they're afraid of or that they don't like? If that's occurring and you're not triggered, then you know it's coming from over there. If it's happening and you're triggered, then it's over with you. Now, it may be in both of you at the same time, and it usually is, because we butt up against our own internal belief systems and we are fighting for our lives, if you will, on a subconscious level. Remember, 99% of what it is that I'm speaking about is subconscious. That's what I'm wanting to get across to you right now is become conscious. Become aware. Become aware of what you've hidden underneath the covers. And when you do, you will have a much greater understanding why certain people just plug you in. And if you investigate that, you'll probably see that there's a pattern among these people that will show you a pattern inside of yourself that you have not taken a look at, or you may see, but you don't approve of it. You judge it, so you shove it, and then it pops up over here in Johnny Joe or Susie Q or Bill.
Better.
Right, Raphael's going, oh my God, are you kidding me? Well, we were watching that TV show where they had all those kind of names. At any rate, is everybody kind of getting this? Is this making any sense? Is it making sense to you, Raphael?
It does make sense to me, but here's the thing that I really, my biggest issue in terms of mastering this is that sometimes when I get triggered, I could go from 0 to 2,000 in about 2 nanoseconds, and it's so hard to become aware that I'm in trigger. So speak to that, please. I know I've talked with you about this many times, but sometimes we are just so taken, that the wound, the trigger is so deep. It's like, oh man, I'm like rocket propellant.
I got it. And it's true. Things come like on auto response that we don't seemingly have any quote unquote control over. And because of that, we see things show up that we are stunned when we see or hear it come out of our mouths. Here's what you do. The moment that you notice that auto response came up, you take a breath. And if you're in a place where you are willing, for lack of a better term, you can say, oh my gosh, that was auto response. I would like to restate what it is that's on my mind. That was an auto response, and this is what's really going on. If your ego won't let you say that to someone because that means that you admit that you did something that wasn't what it is that you really wanted to do, which the ego does not like, then at least in that moment, notice inside of yourself what's going on, take a breath, and you can do one of many different things. One is internally go in and feel what you're feeling in your body. Feel the tension. The heat may be rising. There may be a churning in your stomach or a clenching of your teeth. What are the literal physical sensations that are going on in your body? If you move your attention to the body sensations, it's amazing how that shifts. If that's not something that you seem to be able to do, believe me, you can always do these things, but sometimes it seems like we can't. So if that's not possible, then you have the ability to just say, you've heard me say this a few times. One is you can say, I choose differently. You're interrupting the pattern at that point, because the purpose right now is to interrupt the pattern of the recycled autopilot response, which is recycled ignorance. And when you are willing to do that, when you do that repeatedly, what occurs is that you are making a statement to the universe that you are really committed to changing that auto response. And it will change, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to do that.
And that's recognizing that the auto response is about you, has nothing to do with what the person said that triggered you.
Exactly. The person is strictly your mirror. Remember that relationships are a mirror to our hidden programs. Relationships are a mirror to our hidden programs. When you realize that, then you see that the person who's in your life is a gift, is an amazing gift, because they're showing you something that you have brought up, so you have the ability to shift that. Now, there's other things that you can do when you notice this. One is, if you have a commitment to only be and express the love, then in that moment, when you realize what's occurred, you can take a breath, stay in your body, and at that point, make a decision about what you're committed to. Are you committed to being right? Are you committed to being happy? Are you committed to proving something, which is right along the lines of being right? In other words, do you want to be a victim or do you want to be a master? In that moment, who is it that you are choosing to demonstrate yourself as in life right then? Every single moment gives us an opportunity to do that. In that moment, you can make a choice to choose the love. You can say, I choose differently, but you could also say, what would it take for me to see this through the eyes of love? Or you could say, I choose the love here.
Or you could say, what is the value of me holding on to this old belief?
Exactly. There's so many things that you can do in any given moment. The key is do something different than go unconscious. And when you really recognize that the only answer is to open up your heart with compassion, which seems like it's to the other person, what you really know is it's about you, compassion with you. You do not have to walk around in a state of defensiveness, which is where most people come from. People walk around with a sword in their hand and a shield in front of their chest because they do not feel safe. What if you were so aware that you recognize that and you changed the pattern in you, which gave them an opportunity to change the pattern in themselves? The things that I'm speaking about, I'm not saying they're easy. I'm telling you, this is really advanced work, if you will, that you're hearing. For those of you that are committed to listening to these podcasts and sharing them with others, that means that you really have a very core, deep desire to do things differently, to do your life differently, to wake up to an awareness level that you didn't have before. And in doing that, you are being in service, if you will, to the planet and to everyone on it, when all you're really doing is figuring out how to get more happy yourself. That's really what you're doing. But what happens is the overflow effect is so huge that it's magnificent, like I was speaking about at the beginning of this podcast with Jason.
So let's take a quick break. I have a really important thought I want to put out in front of you and ask your opinion about. But let's just take a quick break and we'll be right back, and I'll come back with that question. Okay, we're back. And the one thing that I wanted to bring out here that I thought was very significant is, well, the 2 points. One is that even if you don't recognize the trigger immediately, that is when it's happening, let's say you have the trigger, you say and you do whatever it is that you do, and then when you go off by yourself or you find yourself agitated, it's still not too late to go through the process that Esateys was talking about, because it will interrupt that pattern of thought. And then if you're able to, you can go back to the person with whom you had the trigger or with whom you've said whatever it was. You can go back to them and talk it through, apologize, whatever, but recognize, let them recognize along with yourself that you're willing to change this. So that's one point that is really, I find that it's never too late to do that. And the second point I wanted to make, and the importance, and Esateys, I'd like your comment on this. The second point is that if we don't do this, if we continually carry around our trigger, our baggage, which really grows every time the trigger happens and we don't deal with it, there's just a little extra on that issue in your backpack and whatever, it becomes harder and harder, and it will affect your other relationships. So with regard to that, if let's say you're not in a romantic relationship, but you continually have these issues or these triggers at work, by not dealing with them, by not processing them through, by not dissipating them, you're just going to recreate that in another relationship, or that will be a bar, or that will be an impediment to you able to have a new relationship. In other words, that'll just show through in any kind of interaction you have with someone else, because it's all part of you.
That's absolutely true. And both of those are really, really good points. When we ignore things, they just grow. They don't go away. We may not think about them for the next whatever period of time, but that doesn't mean that they went anywhere. What it means is that they have been stuffed, and sometimes they're stuffed in the body as heaviness, as extra cells. It doesn't really have an absolute way of happening with people. In other words, some people gain weight, some people lose weight, some people will be more passive aggressive, some people will be more readily irritated. They just, flare off. Those people that somebody looks at them cross-eyed and they go, wah! And so that there's all different ways that we deal with what I'll call incongruent energies in our bodies. Whenever we are not at peace internally, it means that we're in conflict. So that means if we're in conflict, I call that incongruent energies, meaning that you're not in the flow. When you're not in the flow, that starts to rumble up, and it's like a snowball going downhill. It will keep on gathering and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's why it's so critical to deal with these things when they're up. So when you recognize that, what is important is go get it. It's right there. It's not, and I want to clarify something, because I'm not saying that you have to go inside and rip up your past and look for things to process through. I'm talking about being right here, right now, in the moment with whatever it is that's coming up. And as Raphael said, if you don't catch it right then, later is okay. I'll tell you a quick story about someone that I coach, and I'll call her Carol. And I was speaking to her about something around this, and she said, but Esateys, I don't think that fast. I don't catch it. I'm not aware that it's even happening. And then later, after I feel like that person has just battered me, or I'm just back at them like crazy, I walk away just feeling awful. I feel guilty. I feel beaten up by the other person, whatever, and both of those things. And I just don't know how to deal with that. And that's when I let her know that when she walks away and she catches it and she does some kind of awareness process, if you will, like the things that I was just speaking about, not in rubbing her own nose in it and feeling guilty, but rather go from a place as, I'm so grateful I saw that. And now I know what I'm committed to next time when that comes up. And each time it'll get easier and easier. And I worked with her for some time, and she has gotten so much more aware and so much more quick with recognizing when the bricks hit her and she just didn't see it. Now she's seeing it very, very quickly, and she's able to do something about it. Sometimes it's about speaking up and setting boundaries for yourself to someone. Sometimes it's about going internally and recognizing that you haven't been telling the truth to that person. See, when we have conflict in relationships, it's almost always because the truth has not been expressed. We've hidden what's really going on with us, and then it comes up in ways that we don't realize. The other person is showing us places that we have been hiding. I'll give you another example. There's somebody that I was coaching who was an engineer, and this person was not happy in his work situation. And he wasn't happy because he never felt like he was getting the promotions. He always felt like he didn't fit in. He felt like he was in a place where he just wasn't acknowledged. And I said, well, what do you do at your work? How do you express yourself? And so they told me what they did. And throughout the conversation, I learned that he hardly ever spoke to anyone. He didn't ever go up and tell people what he wanted or what he needed. He was allowing himself, for lack of a better term, to be a doormat with everyone around. And he had so many judgments about everybody else, including his boss, that he didn't even realize that he was putting out an energy that wasn't very friendly. It was no wonder that people didn't really want to be around him, and that he wasn't finding himself being invited to other teams or being comfortable with the boss's reviews of him, because he was exuding something that was hidden, didn't really feel safe. And so after we spoke about this, I suggested to him that he go speak to his boss's boss just as a social visit, so to speak. So I suggested that he go speak to the boss and just say, hi, I am Jim. Did I ever say what his name was? Okay, so we'll just call him Jim. My name is Jim, and I'm in this department, and this is what I do. And I just wanted to introduce myself because I think that this business and this company that we have here is really fabulous, and I'm learning how to fit in better and better. But I just wanted to tell you that I think you're doing a great job. Well, this was incredibly scary for this person to do this, but this person did that. And afterwards was like a completely different person because he spoke up about something that was going on with him. Then I had him go to his immediate boss and ask the immediate boss, what can I do that would help our relationship become more fluid, more complementary to each other? What is it that you need that I might not be seeing yet? What are your expectations? And again, it was phenomenal what happened. His boss, his direct first boss, was stunned, really stunned, and said, well, nobody's really ever come and asked me that. And so they ended up having a conversation that was quite enlightening. And the things that this person, Jim, had been holding inside of himself, he got to share that in a really open and significant way. And the boss now became much more open because he'd been walking around with this idea that the boss just flat out didn't like him. He made it up in his head, he projected it on that person, and so the person was being withdrawn from him and not giving him special assignments that he really wanted and all these other things. Communication, people, is really critical when it comes to having difficulty in relationship. Yes, it is about them showing you something, but there's a lot of things that you can do with what it is that they're showing you. You look inside first and you see where it is that you're at and you decide for yourself, what do you want? If you want an open, clear communication, an open, clear healing, for lack of a better term, with that person, which really means you, then take the time and feel it and interrupt the process. Then secondly, look at communicating with that person with an open, compassionate, and very, very, very kind energy. That will be hard for an ego, but it would not be hard for you because who you are is already all those things.
You know, both of those examples that you gave of the two people you coached, what I was thinking as you kept saying it is, as each of them went forward, when they were talking, the second person, when he was talking to his boss, what he's doing is emptying his backpack. He's taking one little layer out of that backpack so that it becomes lighter and lighter and easier for him to be the way Esateys was talking about, easier to be loving, etc., because he has gotten rid of the stuff that has been in there that has just been bogging him down. So I was just flabbergasted at the metaphor for filling and packing and unpacking the backpack, because that is so huge. We carry it around. It becomes the other thing I want to say, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That second person who was, didn't get the recognition, etc. Well, he was causing that. It was self-fulfilling because he had those feelings. And once that shifted, once there was an interruption in that pattern, wow, everything changed for him.
And that is exactly right. The other thing that is an example of both of these people is they became very proactive instead of reactive. They became proactive with the commitment to have an open, honest, clear, quote unquote, loving experience with whomever it is. Now, they didn't have to use all those, what some people would call airy-fairy or girly terms like love, but in their heart of hearts, what they really decided that they wanted was to feel at peace inside of themselves. And anybody who wants peace inside of themselves has got to go give that peace. Anybody who wants more love in their life has to go give more love in their life. Be the change you want to see in the world. Gandhi said it beautifully. Now, the question is, are you willing to live that way to get what ultimately you want? If you want to be right, then you won't do these things. If you want to be happy, if you want to really make a difference in your world and the world of other people, because you know that your children and your grandchildren deserve and want a place that is less caustic, less volatile, less driven by hate and attack, then do what it is that you know you can do right here, right now, to clean up your own act, which will help other people clean up their own act. And I'll tell you that these two examples, and I could give you many of them, the environment. I just got an email from the second person that I was speaking about here about a week ago. And it's been probably, gosh, close to a year since I've coached him. And he wrote and said, I just want you to know that I'm in a new group. I love every person that I work with. I love my boss. I'm so excited for on and on and on and on he went. It's like he's living his dream life with the place where he had originally come to me to ask me about helping him transition, quit his job, and go somewhere else because this place was just unbearable for him. And he has since been promoted more than once and loves the people that he's living with and it all or working with. And it all came down to him. It wasn't the work. It was his own inner work that made the difference.
Okay, we're going to have to go to our next section, but just to close this out, here's something I just wanted to share that I learned, and it's like a litmus test to find out where you are. If you can be aware let's talk about it being in business, although personal relationship would also apply, and that is how many times do you go around judging people in your organization, let's say, in your team, in the people you work with, the people you have contact with. How often do you judge them? And the second piece that is equally important is if one of those people gets a promotion or a pat on the back, are you happy for them or are you resentful of them? If either of those is the case, if you're resentful and you're not happy, or if you're judgmental, then you know you have stuff to clean out.
Life presents an opportunity to design and create the life that you choose. It's all up to you. What you do in each moment will determine your experience of the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. It's incredibly powerful to recognize that you really are the designer of your experience and you really can become and experience life from the totality of joy.
And if what we've said today makes a difference for you, if you do something different and it creates a result that you'd like to share, we would love to hear how you're doing with this. And obviously we'll be happy to help you, but we would like to know if these principles that we've spoken about have really helped and how they've helped in your life.
Send me an email, esateys@esateys.com, or post somewhere, wherever it is that you're listening to this, and let us know, because we love doing this work and we love practicing what it is that we speak. I don't know why, but this little thought just came to me. You probably know that we do retreats. And if you would like to have 2 or 3 days of amazingly deep, intense transformation occur for you in any area of your life, contact us and we'll let you know where and when the next retreat is. Because being in person with the energy and the principles, I don't even know how to put it into words, but you will absolutely walk away a completely different person, aligned more profoundly to whom it is that you truly are, what it is that you truly desire, and with more joy in your heart than you could have ever dreamed or imagined.
Whew, okay, I love what we talked about today. It just brought out so much really, really very powerful insights. So we've gone over on our time, so we're going to skip our question this week. We have a question from, who is that? We have from, I think it's Heather, and we'll talk about it next week. So we're just going to skip right now to the question of the week. Esateys?
Okay. Do you have your pen and papers ready?
I thought you was talking to me.
What would it take for me to see my relationship differently? What would it take for me to see my relationship differently? What would it take for me to see my relationship differently? And when you reframe your judgment, your attack, your blame, and all the other things that we as humans do to a place of recognizing that it is your gift, and the choice is, do you accept the gift or not? It's always the ball's in your court. And I'm holding, for the sake of you and everyone on this planet, that you do choose differently than the old reaction. Be proactive with the caring and the love that comes from within you.
Okay, well, that's it for this show. We will see you next week. Please send us your comments, any emails, and anything you'd like us to talk about. And more importantly, just feel the love and have a great, great upcoming week.
Just know that I am you, you are me, and we are one. We'll talk soon.
Take care and have a great week.